Hi, I'm Everett and welcome back to the shop. This is part 3 of the lathe pedestal foot project. I wound up making it 3 parts just because there was a lot involved with putting this thing together. Not an overly complex project, I realize that, but again, I figured just to show us the different steps I took to put it together, it would just be more fitting to share it. Alright, so we have all 8 of our feet done. All 8 of the jack screws with every feature on it except for the hex. Now we need to put the hex on these guys and then we can assemble them to the feet. For that, I'm going to cheat. I don't have a collet block, much less one that would fit these. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use the hex that happens to come with the nuts. And what we're going to do is use a piece of scrap metal I have sitting here as a gauge. Once it touches in the bottom there, once I tighten this nut up just a touch up against this block here, then I can take and tighten up this nut there against it. Take my left-handed Saskatchewan socket set. For those of you in Canada, you'll get that one. And I actually have an 1.5-inch wrench. And then we'll just snug this guy down. Now if you notice, the hexes are offset. That's going to come in handy in a moment. And then we're going to take one other nut here and spin it up the back here. And you'll see why. We'll go over to the mill and I'll show you what I have in mind. Okay, here we go. The nuts we jammed up here. This guy here is just sitting there as a spacer because we're going to set this assembly in the mill vise, and I'm using the back side of this front nut as a stop to go into the vise jaws themselves. And I'm going to bring this over so that the table is that way, right to pretty much the end of that journal, this journal here. That'd be close enough. Because again, we're going to be setting the depth. Again, we're going to be setting the depth of where this nut sits on the threads, the same using that little block that we've been using. So, though my mill vise is tight, I like where that's sitting. We're going to lock the x-axis here. Because we're indexing off of this hex here, again, we'll be within a couple thousandths, but because we're indexing off of here, I can just leave the quill set. Grab my handy dandy little oil pot. Thanks again, Jim. But if all goes well, otherwise, really, for the most part, that 3/4-inch wrench fits really nicely. So, have to do that to all 8 of them, and then we can start assembling them. I'll bring you back in when they're all. Cut to hex. So the next step is to assemble the feet to the jack screws, and for that, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go over to the lathe. And we're going to actually use a forming type tool to try to work this edge over like a bead. We'll see if it works. It's worth a try to start with anyway. Alright, so what I'm going to try doing is using this little tool here as basically a form tool to roll this edge over. This material here on this journal is only a 1/16 of an inch thick on the wall, so it shouldn't be too bad. All this really is the unground end of a 1/4-inch tool blank. 1/4-inch high-speed steel square tool. So what we'll do is we'll take our jack screw. Now to support the jack screw on this end, just to keep it in place, we'll bring our tailstock over with a 3/4-inch socket, and it really doesn't have to be super tight. Big thing is as long as it lets it spin. I have it in low gear, so it's going to be hard to turn, but helps if you plug it in. All right, let's try that. Yeah, it just has to sit there. So what we're going to do is make sure I got a clearance to the tool post, which I do. Good. And then we're going to use machine oil here, not cutting oil, because we want it to lubricate, not necessarily cool a cutting bit. Let's see what she does. Now I can feel the tension on the cross slide change with each revolution. Oh, look at that. Yeah, maybe it will work. A little bit more of the motion lotion. All right, what do we have? Yeah, I don't think that's going to come off. So that's pretty much what we're looking for. It allows a little bit of movement for, you know, angular floors and such, but we have, you know, foot retention. It doesn't need to be that, it doesn't need to have that big of a crimp. You need to do 7 more of these. All right, we've finally got to the point of welding here, and I need to tack everything together first. I have these long bar clamps, a couple of them, and so what I'm going to use is to hold the threaded sleeves to the ends of the bars. I've already prepped it as far as cleaning the scale off. I've degreased them. And there's a little bit of a chamfer in there, which is good. I need to tack them first. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through all 8 of the sleeves and tack on the 4 corners of the 8 sleeves. Then I can get rid of the clamps, you know, because I'll do this one, then I'm putting the next one in place, clamp it, do it as well. But I'm going to get them all tacked first, then I'll do the finish out welding on the sleeves. We're going to get these we'll get all 4 of the side bars done before we start welding in the cross pieces. And Jamie, if you're watching this, please don't mark me on my welding. I'm a mechanic. I realize I'm not a welder by trade. All right, so that's basically what I'm going to do with all 8 of the corners, these threaded sleeves. I'm going to tack them all in place so I can get rid of these clamps, and then I'll bring you back in for the fill welds. Well, we're now on to doing the fill welds along these joints. I'm going to do these arced fish mouth joints first before I do all the side joints. Well, not really a stack of dimes, but it'll work. Oh, okay. Yeah, that'll have to work. Anywho, I'm going to do all 8 of these, and I'll bring you back in for the Well, actually, no, I guess there's 16 of these fish mouths. And then I'll bring you back in for the sides. At least a couple of the sides. We've got all the fish mouths done. Now it's on to the sides. And I figure I'll do a couple of these just because arc shots are cool, and I gave it a few minutes for the torch to cool down. Yeah, I can see why people like water-cooled torches, because I'll admit, this thing got toasty even after a few of those. I mean, I'm running 180 amps just to try to get decent penetration, and I tell you, it gets real distracting and hard to keep that tungsten from taking a swim when this thing gets warm. So we'll do at least a couple of these sides here for you, just because arc shots are fun. Like I say, I don't claim to be a licensed welder and never claim to be gifted at it. That's for sure. What I do a hold, it's just sometimes not the prettiest. I'm trying to hit most of the heat against the sleeve, because the end of that bar will melt a lot easier than the sleeve will. So anyway, I have another, what, 15? No. Yeah, I guess 15 of those, so I'll bring you back in when I'm done those. So what I've done to square it up is clamped it all together, used these 90-degree magnets in the corners just to help set up. And then across the holes, which is really what matters, I have, well, just about 14 and 9/16 from outside edge to outside edge, outside edge to outside edge. To make sure they're flat in relation to each other, let's make sure they come off. What we're going to do is set it like so. Make sure that it will sit flat to the table, because the tabletop is flat. I can feel it cant a little bit. So what we're going to do is we'll clamp it to the table to make this flat, and then I'll tack all the corners of these things. Alright, with the whole assembly clamped to the table, square across these 4 holes, at least according to the measurements. It should be flat because it's clamped right to the tabletop, which is reasonably flat. So I guess all we have to do now is tack it. And it'll help if the ground is good. There we go. That one's tacked together. I'm not going to show you doing the other pedestal foot, simply because of the fact it's just more of the same. I'm going to tack it together, and then we'll start doing fill welds. This is the the tailstock end. Bring you in for a couple fill welds, and then I'll bring you back in for the last couple on the headstock end. The thing is, I may run out of gas before I get to that point. The tank's getting kind of, or the cylinder's kind of getting kind of low. Probably could have added a bit more filler on that one. Okay, oh yeah, I gotta add a little bit more filler on my welds. I'll bring you back in after. I'll do 1 or 2 of these and then pause it and bring you back in for the end. Well, for an automotive mechanic who doesn't really claim to be a welder, I mean, I know there's a little bit of undercut here. That'll hold. So yeah, I'll do the rest of them up and I'll bring you maybe in for the last one. Getting down to the last weld here. Try to make a nice one, because often the last one is the one you kind of rush through. Well, I'll try to make a nice one for you. Trying to focus more of the heat on the threaded sleeve on these, just because we're going up the end of a piece of material, and that edge is going to burn away more easily than the round part of the sleeve. There we are. We're done. Welding anyway. I actually am very tickled about how this whole, how the results came out. One nice thing is the fact that the machine itself is now a few inches higher. And so what that means is, before I was hunched over a little bit working. Now this is a much more comfortable, more ergonomic level, as far as everything's sort of a 90-degree elbow kind of height. Again, it's not a massive lathe as if I'm, doing A-bomb size shafts. So as far as, the weight of stuff that I'm going to be working on, this will be just fine. I can still get the chuck key in and out comfortably. I mean, this will be just fine. One downside is that I don't have the shelves back here that I used to have to set, well, my dovetail blocks on for the quick change tool post. I'm gonna have to figure something out. Maybe at some point what I might do is see if I can find myself a reasonably priced roller cabinet to slide in here, because I'll have enough space if I take the wheels off that one will slide right in underneath here, and that'd be just perfect for getting at tools. I just can't justify spending a couple $100 right now. But yeah, it's nice and solid. And what's nice is that it's not transmitting as much vibration to the concrete either, because it's sitting on 8 rubberized pads. Using the hockey pucks underneath the feet really helped. One other thing that I'm very happy about is how much more stable this thing is. Before, having a piece of work that was even slightly out of balance would cause this machine to shake like crazy. Well, I'm going to grab onto the ways here and pull back and forth. That's me really working at it. I have about 75 thousandths worth of back and forth play. So as far as not being bolted to the concrete, it's about as close to a second best as I can get. So if you're interested in the plans, if you have a lathe like this, by all means, email me, I'll send you a copy. it's yeah, I'm just glad if somebody else can make use of the stuff I've been working with. So thanks to everybody for your patience and the fact you're willing to still stick around even if it's a couple weeks between videos. We all have lives, we all have stuff that kind of gets in the way of the stuff we like to do, and as I say, I'll keep them coming as long as people still want to keep coming. And so thanks for watching, thanks for subscribing, and see y'all next time.